Hello and welcome to It's Not For Nothing, a podcast on untangling the mess of grief, faith, trauma, and hope after the death of a child. We are three Catholic mothers carrying the extraordinary cross of child loss. If you too are grieving a child, we want to provide a safe place for you to come just as you are, while sharing the encouragement that our God is on the move in the wasteland of your grief. You and your suffering are both precious to Him. It's not for nothing. We're so glad you're here. Hello and welcome back to episode 54 of It's Not For Nothing, Beauty in the Broken, Creative Outlets for Our Grief. I'm Elizabeth Leon. I'm the Director of Family Support with Redbird Ministries, and I'm so happy to be back here with my friends and colleagues, Miss Anna Gowasack, the Director of Leader Formation, Jessica Wilfore, she's our Sibling Support Director, and we have a special guest with us tonight. We have Rachel Eligon. She's a Redbird mom, a professional artist, and a creative expert. We're going to call her that. We're going to call her a creative expert. Just put the pressure on right at the beginning. So welcome, everyone. How is everyone doing?
Man, I'm still feeling that retreat weekend. So Elizabeth and I were on retreat with Kelly in Oklahoma this past weekend, and let's just say travel home got a little bit dicey. I didn't get in bed until 2 a.m. on Sunday, which, if you know me, I was in fact just telling Elizabeth and Kelly, I love going to bed when it's light outside, they're better for me. So I was all the way deceased. We're still playing catch up, but
mid-watch of the night.
Yeah.
We're doing okay. I feel like it's good to be starting a new week. Last week was a little bit heavy just because there was someone in our community that died, and he's an adult, but I know his mother, and it just hits you so hard now. I feel like I used to be able to hear stories like that, and you're like, oh, that's really sad, and you kind of move on. But when you've experienced it, the other night, I found myself crying because I was thinking of his mom, even though he's an adult. I'm like, I know she's crying in bed right now, and you take on so much more. And so last week, just hearing that news of someone in our community who I'm not even super close with, it just hit. And so last week was just a weird week of feeling all those feelings.
I feel that for you.
Yeah.
And Rachel, maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are in the world, and how you ended up on a grief podcast.
Yeah, of course. So I am here in Burbank, California. It's in the Los Angeles area. As Elizabeth mentioned, I'm a professional artist. I used to work in the animation industry as a storyboard artist, and now I primarily do watercolor paintings, and I sell them at church events and online and stuff like that. And I am on a grief podcast because, unfortunately, in August of 2024, my husband and I lost our first baby, Jude, miscarriage at 7 weeks. And then back to back this year in February and April, we lost Pia and Damien also to miscarriage at 7 weeks. So we don't currently have any living children, and I'm just trying to find my way through the choppy waters of grief right now.
Yeah, it's been such an honor to walk with you for a little while now through your grief with Jude. And I know that our whole community has ridden the waves of hope and grief with you. So thank you for being with us in the midst of all of that. We're really honored to have you here sharing all of your heart and your creativity with us.
I mean, first of all, I appreciate what you said about acknowledging that it can feel impossible depending on where you're at in your grief, because even as a very artistic person, even as someone who works through my emotions through art, for some reason this third miscarriage, it's been that the art is not coming. It feels too heavy right now to even touch it with a 10-foot pole. And it's strange because when we lost Pia, I immediately dove into the art, and that was just 2 months ago. And that brought me a lot of comfort, and it made me feel like I was still with her in a way. And I think that this time there's this sense of when I had only lost Jude, it was easy to keep him alive through art. And now I've got 3 babies I'm trying to keep alive through art, and it feels very heavy and very hard to sustain. But just in regards to what drew me to art in the midst of grief. I mean, of course, as a professional artist, I love to draw, I love to paint. When we had lost Jude, it was very, very rocky because it was my first experience with grief. My maternal grandparents both died when I was very young, and I just don't have much memory of them, you know? So this was the first time I had lost someone who really mattered to me in a substantial way, and it was very hard to navigate. And you know, you have the peaks and the valleys, and I was very naive to think, you know, that when I had the peaks it was all over and I was done grieving, and then I would fall on my face all over again. And so there was a period of time during one of those really rough patches, during one of the valleys, where I was on YouTube and I was listening to a Father Mike talk about letting God be the God of your brokenness. And it really struck me, and I was crying through the whole thing. And this painting of the Sacred Heart we have out in our living room, I came out and I kneeled in front of it and I just ugly cried for like half an hour. And I didn't have any words. I didn't have any like requests. I was just like, this is all I've got. And it was just ugly crying. And in the midst of that ugly crying, an image came to mind of doing the Pietà, but sort of a reversal of it, in that it would be the crucified, bleeding Jesus holding me in my grief, which is this one right here. It's called Every Wound for You. And that felt like a very substantial moment of connection with God in the midst of like a really deep suffering, and sort of was a space where I often find myself in the midst of grief. You know, people say to be completely honest with God. And I'm like, I don't even know how to tell God how I'm feeling because I'm feeling so many different things. I don't know how to explain. I'm angry at him, but I love him, but I want to trust him, but I don't. I would never stop talking if I tried to explain everything I'm feeling. So I feel like art has been very helpful in that I don't need words. You can understand what I mean by looking at it. And also, when I first joined the Redbird app, which was, I think, maybe 5 or 6 months after losing Jude, I shared a lot of the art I had been making in the midst of my grief. And it was actually you, Elizabeth, who commented that Jude's mission lives on in my art. And for me, that meant a lot. And so when I make art, it's kind of the only time that things sort of make sense in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my story, I guess.
Rachel, I'm so glad that you did share your art on the app because I'm not an artistic person. I think people think I am because I like plan the sibling activities. I'm not creative. I can't do it myself. And so I never went into like being artistic and writing poetry, like nothing like that. So I remember seeing your art and looking online for other things. But when I saw the one of Jesus holding you or holding a mother, like I ordered a copy from you because I was like, that feels so real. Like I totally connect to that. Like Anna and I were saying, like I have a secret board on Pinterest of any quotes and poems that I see because I just don't have that in me to make it. So I'm glad, Elizabeth, you also mentioned like, don't feel guilty if you're not there. Because for me, it's just been helpful relating to other people. Like, so if I read something or see something that feels very connected to me, I'm like, I'm not alone because someone else is feeling that same way. And thinking of Jude living on in December, Rachel was so wonderful to come to our sibling group and show the kids how to paint Jesus holding their siblings. And everybody got to see a picture of Jude. And again, like that is not something that I could do. And the beautiful ornaments that came out of it from Rachel guiding them step by step was incredible. Your gift and your love for Jude and all your babies, but at that time it was Jude that you were talking about and showing us pictures, is so alive. Yeah.
Thank you. That means a lot to hear you say. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. No, I know those ornaments mean a lot to the siblings too. So it was a big gift.
I think you've mentioned this before on the app, Rachel. Like I thought about that time you like drew Pia and Jude's little like colors on the marker board at, was it Hobby Lobby? Like you left it on the board, right? And I think like part of especially early loss is the unbearableness of like I can't handle the idea of like just letting the world not be touched by their lives. And that was one of the things that like just sat so sour in my soul when we came back from the hospital after we learned that Ollie had died. And I opened the door to my apartment, and it's like seared in my memory that it was just exactly the same. And it felt so surreal because I was like, nothing is the same. Nothing can ever be the same. I hate that it looks the same in my house.
Yeah.
Like, it was really just this hate for like the environment staying the same. I was like, no, it has to change because everything is different. So I was really into hand lettering at this time, and I haven't done it as much lately. But there was this Mr. Rogers quote that I had lettered maybe even a couple weeks before, and it was sitting on my piano when I walked in. And like, that was the thing that I like latched onto. Like, I looked around and like nothing felt like it reflected his life and the impact that it had on me. But then there was this quote, and I'll show you if you're looking at the video, but I'll also read it. And it says, "You've made this day a special day by just your being you. There's no person in the whole world like you, and I like you just the way you are." And that just captured so much of me, of just like, even in the midst of being absolutely like steamrolled by also Rachel, the first real loss in my life, just this deep down somewhere really quiet like gratitude of like, I like you just the way you are. You weren't not enough, and you weren't too small, and you weren't too anything. Like, I don't know. And there's no person in the whole world like you. I don't know. So that was just really special to me. And I think maybe launched a lot of what I call my grief art. I said, like, I said to my husband, to like other people, I was like, I want to paint the walls with my grief. Like, I want it plastered everywhere, because everything needs to feel the repercussions of like what had happened to me and my family.
I love how you're saying that, Anna, that it's too painful to imagine that the world is not going to be further touched by our children's lives. You know, whether they die in the womb or after birth or at 3 years old or any time. And that our creative expression of our grief and of their lives is the way, is one of the ways that they continue to live on. It's not just a gift of their life to others, but the process of it is immensely healing. Like, we know our church is so beautiful. I mean, I love our Catholic faith for a zillion reasons, but you know, when we talk about the transcendentals, beauty is one of the transcendentals, which means it's deeply connected. It's a divine attribute. It's written into each one of us, and we're drawn to it through our creation. So experiencing beauty in nature, music, and art it's not just like looking or listening at pretty things. It's connecting with the divine artist. You know, truly transcendental beauty is a form of prayer in its creation. Whether each of us would consider our creations transcendental beauty, I mean, I think Rachel can say yes, but it's still the process of creating is so immensely helpful. Like, the research even shows that creative expression is physiologically and spiritually healing. Making art, journaling, making music, singing, all of these things lower our cortisol rate, lower our heart rate, regulate our nervous system. So there's personal benefits in our bodies as well as that which we're offering to the world.
There's something so satisfying about the inside being on the outside now. I know that sounds really rudimentary and like little kid, but it's like this heavy sigh from your spirit when you're like, okay, it exists outside of me.
I don't know if any of you have done a lot of journaling, but I remember a lot of people and like my therapist initially, like everyone was like, journal. Like, I kept hearing it from everyone. So I was like, all right, I'm going to try this. And like you said, Anna, like putting it out there, getting it out from inside of you feels good. But then like I've never been able to go back and read those journals, and I don't know that I ever will. Like, I don't know if you feel that way. It's like I got it out, but I cannot revisit that. Like, the things I wrote are too painful.
There's an entering in that happens, I think, anytime you revisit those things, and it's never not heavy. I think it definitely has to be like kind of like a time when you're ready in this intentional choice. Go back to that place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say my book was published on John Paul Raphael's 4th birthday. So it definitely was time, right? Like, there was time for that creative expression when I was ready to have it move through my body into becoming something that could be not just for me. I was just talking about this with another Redbird mom today too, like the day our books came, and like holding the story of my grief in a tangible item, you know, seeing the story of your grief painted on your walls, you know, any of these ways that it becomes an external, physical, tangible creation that we can hold, I think is immensely healing, that it is real. I didn't make it up. I didn't make up my child. Like, the impact of his life is right here. See, you can look at it.
Mhm.
Well, that's really interesting that you say that because I've been thinking for a long time. I mean, you guys know I primarily do visual art, but I also do poetry, and I have like somewhere between 10 and 15 poems that I've written over the course of these last 2 years in the midst of losing multiple babies. And I've thought multiple times about either like going to a publisher or self-publishing it just so that I can have like the dedication and have their names on the dedication and know that someone somewhere will read that. Because one of the most consoling things to me is to know that someone somewhere is thinking about my babies, even if they have no idea who they are. So like every time my husband and I go on the beach, we write our babies' names in the sand. And it's like, no one is going to know who Jude Alex Eligo is, or who Pia Cheryl Eligo is, or who Damien Michael Eligo is, but they read their names. And to me, that matters for some reason.
Because they deserve to be known. They just do.
Yeah.
So how can we encourage people that are listening to this podcast to give themselves permission to make art, maybe even bad art, to give themselves space for their grief to take creative form? How can we offer encouragement or some practical suggestions for that?
Well, the first thing I would say is don't make it into an obligation, because I think that part of the reason that I am struggling to create art right now is because like it matters to me that my babies are known, but now I have three and it's a lot harder to create art for three babies than for one baby. And I think I'm feeling this pressure to keep all of them alive at the same rate that I kept Jude alive for a year. And I can't do that. I can't hold that. It's too heavy right now. And so I guess what I'm saying is, you do it out of love. Don't do it out of obligation. Don't let it become a burden, because it shouldn't be a burden. It should be a memento. It should be something that lifts your heart, not something that pushes it down. And, my hope and my prayer is that I will work through this sense of obligation and that I will be able to continue to create the art that I genuinely want to create. But that would be the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is that even if you're not artistic, there are ways to grieve instrumentally that are not artistic in the traditional sense. And by what I mean by instrumental grieving is, apparently it's very common for women specifically to grieve by either creating or buying things to remember the person by. That is generally how women grieve. So if you are someone who can't paint or draw to save your life or play music or whatever, you can buy things and put them together. Like I have a cross right here, and this little stone right here is a peridot for Jude for August, and this one's an amethyst for February for Pia. And I'm waiting for another one to come for Damien for April. But I guess my point is, I didn't make this, I just put it together. But that's still a way to instrumentally grieve and to engage your creativity in a way by going online and looking for things that remind you of your babies and kind of creating that by just putting pieces together.
I think I would add as what I would consider a bad artist that a lot of what brought me comfort in creating art after Ollie died was actually less so the visual outcome of it and more actually the physical process of what I was doing. So there was this one in particular that I did the day after he died that was like this wet on wet diffusion of blue and purple watercolors. And I just would put this pool of water and I would just dip the tip of the watercolor in it and watch it diffuse. And it was like putting my tears in a different medium. And it was so satisfying. Like it just covered this page, and it wasn't because it looked really professional in the end. It was because of the physical experience of doing that. Or like there was this one picture I found that I literally, it's going to sound so dumb. There was this picture that was just all of these red streaks in no particular order. And it just took my breath away because I sat there and I was like, this is what the inside of me feels like just the rawness of it. And so just like scribbling for the feeling of the intensity, for the anger, for the just, all of the heaviness and depth of emotion. Like even if it's just the physical sensation that you're kind of giving vent to, not for particularly for any symbolic end, I still found that to be really, really, really relieving and healing.
And your point also that connecting with other people's creativity is part of engaging the creative parts of yourself. You don't have to create the beauty to allow the creative beauty to impact you and to impact grief and to find a connection with it by any way that anyone else's creativity or beauty inspires you to express, even just in expressing your emotions is a creative outlet for your grief. I mean, going to an art museum, everyone knows I like to watch sad movies and listen to sad songs, and just allowing the beauty and the impact of others' creativity to impact you.
Yeah.
And Rachel, I like that you mentioned getting something and putting it together. That's actually one way my husband, if he's really sad, he'll buy a new Lego set because that was something him and Hudson always used to do. And so then he'll build a Lego set. So that's like something physical that I didn't really even think about as like a creative outlet for him. And how I mentioned, like, if I would write things I don't like looking back at them, I do remember once writing a letter to God of everything that I was angry, like a nasty letter, let's be honest. It was like week 2 of my grief and it was not nice. And so I remember like getting it all out and then I just threw it in the fire. And to me, that was kind of like I got it out. I don't have to see it again, nor does anyone have to see this. But I did that similarly with the sibling group maybe 2 months ago. It was all about anger. And so the kids wrote down everything that made them angry about losing their sibling. And then they just tore it to shreds. And so there's something safe in knowing that no one's going to find the things that are really ugly about your grief. Like, of course, we can share it with one another, but you're like, there's just some really dark parts that just need to stay between me and God.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I guess just purely on like the practical side of things also, it doesn't always have to be like art, like I entered a baking competition this week and that is not my thing. But I'm a finalist, and so the next round is next Sunday. And I was like, you know what? If I win, this is Damien's win because I literally baked the cake for the first round while I was actively miscarrying. So it's his win too if we get first place. And I'm only saying that because like purely from the sense of like a tactile sensation, like baking, a cookies or a cake or whatever, people don't really often think of that as art unless you're watching like Food Network and seeing the crazy decorative cakes, but there's still sort of that tactile putting your emotions into something, moving through something. And it's also just a good distraction sometimes. So consider things that are not your thing.
That's making me think of people who are dancers. I'm speaking of other people here. The idea of dancing out my grief. There's times when I think the intensity of emotion would have been beautifully expressed had I been a different person with a different talent and a different body. I would love the idea of seeing a mother of loss dancing out her grief. Like really. So if you ever hear this, anyone, and you are a dancer and you are willing to do that for us, I would love to connect with you because I think that would just be so powerful.
Cool.
Like the complete embodiment of that dance brings.
I don't know if you guys saw the thing I posted on the app last night, but there's a new Disney short out called Versa on Disney Plus, and it's basically about miscarriage/infant loss. It's a little bit unclear, like at what point the baby passes away, but it's all like music and set to dance, and it's very beautiful and made me think of exactly what you were talking about, Elizabeth, and definitely worth a watch. It will make you cry for sure, but it kind of touches on that idea.
I watched it as well. It is beautiful. And the man who created it lost a baby. That shows kind of his wife and his journey. Yeah, you'll cry. It's good though.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We don't have Disney Plus, but I can swipe a login from one of my children. So any final encouragement for our listeners to make beauty from their broken hearts?
One thing I would say is something that has brought me a huge amount of consolation in the midst of losing my babies is seeing that my art has touched other people. And to tie it back to what you had commented to me the first time I posted in the Redbird group, Elizabeth, that Jude's mission lives on through my art. I often think, I've had people look at this painting and cry and tell me some deep tragedy of their past. It's not always child loss. I had a woman who had a stroke who shared with me about that. And I like to think that if my art touches people in some way, my babies are touching people, are making a difference. And I feel like that's something that would resonate with a lot of women's hearts. And so, I can't promise that anyone is going to have a big emotional reaction to your art. But even just someone thinking, that's pretty, that's nice, that made my day a little bit better. In a way, I'd like to think that's your children making their day a little bit better or giving them a little glimpse of beauty. And so even if you don't think your art is ever going to make someone cry or whatever, the idea that your art, whatever reaction people have to it, is a small way of your child being able to touch someone here and now, I think that's a really beautiful thing. And that's something worth creating art, whatever quality it is.
Beautiful. I, as an artist, am a musician. So I am a singer primarily. And our conductor that I worked with for decades, actually, he used to always say music is a temporal art. So unless you are a recording artist, which I'm not, I make music that lives in the world for the time that it exists. And the beauty of it, frankly, I hope people enjoy it and I hope they like listening to it. But the creativity is actually in my body. It's the expression of making the music and the way the Lord allows me to make something beautiful with other choral singers. And then it just sort of dissipates and is gone, frankly. But I find that to be so encouraging, again, for the process of creativity, for the process of allowing your grief to have an outlet that doesn't have to be about what's there, leaving an impact for others. It can just be about how the creativity and the beauty lived in you and the impact it had on you. So this is definitely a both and scenario. They're both really beautiful, powerful ways that creativity is healing. Well, this was a great conversation. I'm so glad to have you here, Rachel, and that Jessica and Anna, you could both join us. And I pray that this gives our listeners encouragement and ideas and permission to let there be beauty from their heartbreak. We're going to close with It's Not for Nothing. This is the part of the episode where we talk about where is there a knot in your grief that's holding you up, keeping your head above water and giving you hope, or a knot that needs some untying.
A really fun one. So I'm going to start, which is unusual to have a fun thing to share in this. And it's, as all things are in this podcast, it's a little bit bittersweet. But over retreat this weekend, I was just sharing about my baby, Ollie, and all of the things that the Lord has just revealed to me over time very slowly about the meaningfulness of his life. And one of the things that the Lord showed me very early on was this beautiful gift that the amount of time that I knew and carried Ollie was 33 days, which is the same number of years that Jesus lived, which was just this beautiful confirmation to me of the completeness and the goodness of his life, that he wasn't lacking anything. And so there's kind of this special thing to me of 33 days, 33 years, right? And so I was on the airplane home and I barely made this airplane home. I thought I wouldn't make it. I almost completely rebooked. It was insanity. I should not have been on this airplane, but I made it on this airplane and it was the last leg home. And over the speaker, the pilot is like, "Welcome to flight 1933 from Dallas Love Field to Atlanta. We are going to be in the air for an hour and 33 minutes. There's a lot of 33s with this flight." He literally said out loud. And he's like, we're even going to be cruising at 10,033 feet. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of 33s. And in my half asleepness, I just got such a little just such a little hug. And it there's this realization that I'm yeah, my baby prayed me home, because there is nothing on this earth that he wants more than for me and Michael to be together. And anyway,
I
good.
love
I
it.
love that.
That is so cute.
That's amazing.
being boy.
I have one thing that I'm holding on to, and it was last week I had to do something that was like a little bit triggering. Like I think we all have things that like it hits too close to home when it like comes to our babies, children's death. And it was something that, yeah, I felt like, oh, I don't think I can do this. But then something like clicked in me, and maybe it was, like the verse, like, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I just thought, I can do hard things. I have done the hardest thing that I think I've ever had to do. And so nothing really can stop me now. And so, not to say that like your trauma and triggers and things is something you could just blow past, but there was like something that I was like, I can do this because I can do hard things. And so that's like something I'm holding on to. And that was even advice. My aunt lost a child. And so she was one of the first people I ever wanted to talk to after we lost Hudson. Like, if you didn't lose a child, like, don't talk to me. You don't know what I'm going through. But I knew she knew. I wanted to talk to her. And I remember saying, I'm so scared of how I'm going to live the rest of my life. Like, it just feels like it's going to be awful. And she said, the worst thing has already happened. And so, like, just moving forward from there is just, yeah, moving forward from there, knowing that I can do hard things. Like, that's what I'm holding on to this week.
I hate to say
Well,
that's so good, but that's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really powerful.
really beautiful.
All right, Rachel, I'll give you a little more time to think because I've got mine. So I've got a really special one. There's a piece of music that's very, very special to me. It's by John Rutter. It's the Pie Jesu. It's the third movement of his Requiem. And it's a piece I've loved my whole life since high school when I first heard it. It's a beautiful soprano solo. And it's got this like haunting choir part behind it, and it's all just requiem. It's the prayers of the dead, and our choir is performing it this weekend, and I get to sing that solo. And it was sung at John Paul Raphael's funeral. So I remember during his funeral, just kneeling there in front of the altar. It was after communion. I placed it there deliberately. This woman I sang with, his glorious soprano, sang the solo, and I just wept and prayed my way through that music. And now I get to sing it this weekend. So, pray for me, everyone who hears this. Well, it'll be way too late anyway, but the three of you pray for me that I can get through it.
Hey, prayers outside of time. So
put my professional game face on, but it's such a tribute to my little boy and such a prayer that I get to do this with my whole choir. So that's my thing I'm holding on to.
I don't know what the copyright issues would be, but you should like insert that song at the end of this for everyone to hear. That would be really beautiful.
Yeah, maybe I could. I could probably insert my recording of it.
Yeah.
But yes, or I could at least link to it. I can link to a copy of it. It's
That'd be
beautiful. Yeah. All right, Rachel, what's your It's Not for Nothing?
Well, unfortunately, you guys all have your like really beautiful positive ones, and as I shared earlier, I'm right back in the thick of early stages of grief, so I'm not really in a like I'm holding on to something beautiful that's keeping me afloat kind of mood. For me, there's a knot, and it's just the question of why. Like so few women go through 3 miscarriages in a row. Why me? Why our babies?
Yeah.
And people say, like, why do you care so much about why? And to me, I think that's the only way I can still believe that God is good, if there's a reason.
Yeah.
And that reason is worth it. And at the same time, I get this sense that if I could let go of the why, if I could stop torturing myself trying to find it, I'd have a lot more peace. But there's another part of myself that says, but aren't my babies important enough to deserve a why? So, yeah, that's where I am right now. And it's really hard. And pray for me because we're marrying our babies this weekend at the Shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And I prayed so many times when we were pregnant with Damien that we would have to marry 2 babies on Friday. I just don't understand. Oh my God. I want to say he didn't care, but I tried really hard to be honest that this was something I was afraid of, and I wish he had protected us from that.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for being so honest and vulnerable with us and your heart, because that's really fair. All of those questions are so fair. That is a giant knot that needs to be untied, that the Lord wants to untie for you in his time, in his way. And I know that that honesty is really going to bless people listening to this. And we will pray. We're going to pray right now. Heavenly Father, and we just thank you for this conversation. We thank you for the gift of Rachel and Jessica and Anna. We thank you for the gift of our children, a very special way. We thank you for the gift of Pia and Damien. And we ask for an abundant outpouring of grace on your beloved daughter, Rachel, that you would console her and comfort her, especially Mary, through your intercession, Our Lady, as you plead before the throne of God to untie the knots of confusion and despair, darkness, discouragement, and doubt about God's love for her and his presence in her life. And we pray this on Rachel's behalf and also on behalf of all of those listening to these words that also have those same knots of doubt and feeling rejected or forgotten or unloved. Mary, our mother, you would intercede for every mother or father lost, untie the knots in their heart so they can receive God's love in his time and in his way. We ask all this through your holy name, Jesus, through the Immaculate Heart of Mary and Our Lady of Tyre of Knots. Pray for us. In the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rachel. We will absolutely be holding you in prayer. And thank you, Jessica and Anna. So good to be with you all. And thank you to our listeners. God bless you. Thank you so much for joining us today. For more information on Redbird Ministries, visit www.redbird.love. That's LOVE.